Welcome. We're going to go ahead and start today. We have our socially distanced team building, recreation, and mixers. My name is Jill Richards, and I'm the Ohio County Extension educator. Our other presenter today is going to be Melessa Wiesehan from Jennings County. We'll go ahead and get started.
Okay, well, welcome, Chelsea. I'm glad to see you on here for this call. We're going to start first with some tips for socially distanced club activities. And so you may be asking, how do I make the club meetings fun and safe? So first you want to work with your extension educator to write a safety plan for your meetings. And in each county, they may do this differently. I know you're in my county, and what I did is I sent out an example of the template, and then I encourage you to fill in most of the information that you knew, especially about the space size and location, and how you would situate the rooms. And then I would preview it and add any information before sending it on. But we're encouraging volunteers to check with their extension educator about how to create the safety plan. When you start to plan for your recreation activities, you want to consider the size of the room and the space. So you want to determine what's feasible. Perhaps if you are at the library meeting, and that's a great big area, if you have like rooms 1, 2, and 3, you could do an activity where you can spread out and be more active. If you're in a smaller room or location, you may need to do an activity that everybody just remains seated. But throughout the meeting, you want to be sure that everybody remains 6 feet apart, and ask them to wear their mask when social distancing is not possible. And we'd like for you to provide hand sanitizer and face coverings for members. For people in my county, we do have those materials that the health department gave to us to loan out. So we have items that we can give to all our club members and our club leaders to use. And you'd also want to have disinfecting wipes or cleaners and paper towels available to disinfect the tables, chairs, or any hard surfaces. And you want to do that before and after meetings. If you're meeting in a public location, you would want to clean everything prior to the meeting, like at the library. We're not sure if the staff clean after meetings, so we'd want to clean everything before. And then we want to be courteous and clean up after ourselves, so everything's disinfected for the next group that comes into the room. But if you're in a location that you know is clean and has been disinfected by staff or other people beforehand, you wouldn't have to clean prior to the meeting. And in order to help with the social distancing and to help members know where to stand, you can actually mark on the ground with like different items. So if you're outside on blacktop or driveways, you could mark spaces with chalk and mark individual areas where everybody stands. This would work well with smaller children, especially minis, who may be more apt to go and run up to their friends. But if you want to make sure they stay in place, you can mark the ground with chalk. If you were indoors, you could use painter's tape. I've seen people even use hula hoops as a marker for programming. But of course, if you use the hula hoops, you would have to disinfect those in between use too. So those are some tips. And the next slide has a few more tips. So if you want to use equipment or supplies, and I know it's easier to do a lot of activities with supplies, but I think some people are a little shy to use equipment or supplies now because they have to clean. But if you do use those items, here are some tips. If you are going to hand out anything at the club meetings, you want the club leader or a designated adult volunteer to distribute the items to the members. And you can do that by waiting till everybody is seated, and then the leader would distribute the items. You could also assign designated seating areas and distribute the items ahead of time. So like if you have a paper agenda and an ink pen, before everybody gets there, the club leader could hand out or place an agenda and a pencil or pen at each station or seating area, and then tell the kids to sit at those areas. When collecting these items or equipment that you distribute, you want to be careful how you collect it. So I would suggest like a drop-off location. Maybe there's a place by the door that there's a tote and they just drop off the items that they leave. You could also ask members to leave their items on the desk or table where they're sitting, or you could ask an adult volunteer to go around and collect it. But you want to be careful, that lots of people aren't touching the items and exchanging items. Make sure you have that coordinated to how you're going to collect the items. And if possible, and this may not be feasible for club leaders if they don't have funds for their clubs, but if it's possible, if you distribute like paper agendas or pencils or pens, it's better if you can just let the kids take those items home where you don't have to collect them. But if that's not possible, then you would need to collect them safely, disinfect the writing utensils, and then dispose of the paper in a recycling tub or a trash can, and then be really careful how you do that. One last tip, please clean and disinfect all items before and after use, especially if you don't know who has had the items ahead of time. I know Jill's going to go into some of the games and activities in a little bit, and some of those items for the games you'd want to disinfect prior if you didn't know where they'd been or who had used them previously. But whoever's cleaning the items, we want them to be careful too, and we want them to try to wear gloves and use safety precautions. We don't want the person cleaning the items to get ill either. So just keep that in mind, to have a game plan if you distribute items, how you'll collect them, how you'll distribute them safely, how you'll collect them safely, and how they'll get cleaned. So I think we're ready for the next slide, Jill, and we can start with activities.
Yes, so now we're going to take this time to show you just 4 different activities that we've described, so you can check this out on our YouTube. It's on all of our pages. So if Britt, if you want to share the short video before we move on.
Welcome to the Volunteer Development Series. We are covering socially distanced recreation, icebreakers, and team building activities. We've created videos about 4 different activities that you can do at your club, and they're all involve social distancing. So they're different icebreakers or recreation games that you can include in your club meetings, and the kids can still have a good time but stay socially distanced. This activity is called the 4-H Blind Sculpting Challenge, and Jill is going to help demonstrate this activity. And it's kind of like charades. We wrote down different 4-H projects on note cards, and as a participant, Jill has Play-Doh and she's blindfolded. And what she did is she chose one of the cards, then put her blindfold on, and is now trying to create the object, and then me as the other participant will guess what the object is. And so for this themed activity, the cards all suggest or say actual 4-H projects or things that you can exhibit. Yeah, cookies, foods project.
Yes!
Okay, so that's just one example. This is an activity you can do 6 feet apart at your 4-H club meetings or at other activities, and it's a fun way to team build and also just work and collaborate together.
This activity, all you're going to need is a pool noodle and some disinfecting wipes. So make sure before you give these out to your 4-Hers, you disinfect them. And then this is called pool noodle tag. So all you do is tag somebody as they run away, and then they're out, and then you go tag the rest of the participants. When you recollect these, make sure you wipe them off and disinfect them before storage.
This activity can be used as an icebreaker before your club meetings or events, and it's called We Are All Connected. And what you can do is have all your members sit in a large circle or stand in a large circle outdoors or in a bigger room. And you will come up with several different questions to ask them. And some questions can be like, raise your hand if you have a pet, raise your hand if you wear glasses, raise your hand if you like pizza. So once you read those statements, then your members will raise their hand if they like pizza. If they don't, they won't raise their hand. And then the members can see who has similar interests or disinterest than they do. So it's a way for kids to connect, to find out who in the group likes things that they like, and it's a way to talk about differences. And that's important now for us to realize that we need to be inclusive and make sure everybody feels welcome. And even though people may not agree with us or believe the same things that we do or do the same things that we do, that they can still come to those meetings and we can all be friends and have a great time at our club meetings.
Way to keep social distance during club meetings is to take your kids on a scavenger hunt. And And you can find an activity just like this one online. Just Google scavenger hunt, nature walk, and you can get your 4-H members out and about and get them socially distanced. And they can find anything on their scavenger hunt. It doesn't have to be in nature. If you're inside because of cold weather or bad weather or whatever, you can also do it inside. And that concludes our 4 activities. Hopefully you've enjoyed them. And if you would like some more activities or need further information, contact your local 4-H extension educator. All right. That was great. We are going to go back to sharing our screen. Maybe. All right, so those were some activities that we wanted to demonstrate on just how easy and fun they were to set up. So the blind sculpting challenge was definitely an interesting one, and those can be done with any of your projects that you guys can come up with, and kids can have a really good time with that. It's just really important to make sure if you're using Play-Doh or something like that, that each child has their own, because it's not like something that you can disinfect. So make sure that you have your own individual ones. So use creative activities to line up students. So when you're going to separate all of your participants 6 feet apart, you can use different activities to get them to line up. And that can be by their height or age or alphabetical order, some fun creative activity lineup like that. And that will help you separate everybody 6 feet apart. So some of the other games that you can play with your club or send it off to your recreation leader so they can pick things out. There's an animal noise game that can be used, and this is just ask the group to stand around in a big circle, all facing inwards, and choose a leader. And you might want to choose somebody that already knows how to play. And you start the game by demonstrating their animal noise. So, for example, they could do an elephant and make a trumpet noise, wave their arms like a trunk, and things like that. So that's an easy game. That way the kids can all go around the circle and get a chance to make their own thing. And it's moving them around and getting them involved. That you can do with a mask if you're worried about any kind of, things being projected or anything like that. You would want to have the kids all wear a mask, especially if they're not outside. Another easy socially distanced game is bingo. This would be something that you would want to set up where the kids would be able to take their items with them. So their bingo card or whatever they're covering with, you'll want that to be able to either be disposable or something they can take with them. Charades or Pictionary, clean supplies between uses. It's another great game. A dance party, with all the TikTok videos going around and things like that. All kids seems like they want to dance here lately. So choose themes, teach specific dances. If you have anybody that's really good at line dancing, a dance party would be really fun for their activity. You can also do demonstrations. That's something that an activity that your kids can do in your club, and kids can volunteer whether they want to demonstrate something that they've done at school or one of their 4-H projects, but an educational demonstration is also a really good activity. Musical statues is another one. You move around the space and stop when the music stops. Anyone that you see still moving is eliminated until one person is left. So that's something that can be entertaining, and they can be socially distanced. Like we said with the nature walk and the scavenger hunt, if you didn't want to provide papers for the kids to take along, they can just do a nature walk and talk about what they've seen, but still keeping 6 feet apart. That way they're outside. An obstacle course that wouldn't have them actually touching anything, but you can set that up using painter's tape, chalk, hula hoops, just different activities in a big open field or in a lot or even in a big room where they can be active and doing different things. A paper airplane contest. They would each need their own sheet of paper, and then finding out who can make the best airplane. Maybe it's the coolest design, or maybe you can even find out who can actually get the airplane to fly the furthest, or maybe they do different tricks with different designs. So that can be done in a lot of different ways. But those with the paper airplane, they would just take their paper, either they take them home or throw them away, but that way they have their own individual. Sidewalk chalk games like hopscotch. There's different activities, and If you're inside and can't do that with sidewalk chalk, you can always use painter's tape. So those are things that you can come up with. Singing's not really recommended at this time, but you could play music and learn hand movements, or a great opportunity to learn some sign language to different songs. So singing's just not really recommended right now because of projecting their sound in their voice. Could also have saliva or things like that would be projected. So you can do other things and learn sign language like that. Simon Says is a great activity to get kids involved and get them to move around and still be socially distanced. So that's a great one to have. Different trivia games, whether it's 4-H trivia or things like that, to get kids involved and share some knowledge. Yoga. Now you would have to have a trained yoga instructor to teach different poses, but that's a great way to not only get the kids active, but give them a way to maybe relieve some stress or things that are going on in their lives. We have listed here some back to school or some resources, and there's different activities that are listed. There's a lot of different things that you can look up online and just see if there's different games and things like that they can play. Turn it back over to Melissa.
Okay, thank you. So you can still do some make and take items at your club meetings if you'd like. They'll just take some more planning and prep to get ready if you're willing to take the time to do these things. Some simple task could be like create cards with construction paper and markers. The kids, of course, would take the construction paper card home, and then you would collect and clean the markers. But you can also bag up items and just have take-home kids. Like the kids would just get some kind of activity from you at the club meeting and they would make it at home. But something that you could do at a club meeting, maybe plant a seed or herb or flower in a cup. And to do that, you would probably set up stations where all the items were out on the table. The kids would have everything they would need at the station, create their item, take the cup or the planted cup or seed, flower or seed home, and then you'd clean up after them. And then there are lots of different prepackaged craft kits that you can buy at Hobby Lobby or other craft stores. I know I've used those before with like kindergarten classes, or I've purchased craft supplies and we've made our own kits in sandwich bags. So whoever prepares the items ahead of time would definitely, want to wear gloves and take safety precautions when packing up the items. But there's still some things you can physically do together and or the kids can do, but you just may have to be creative in how you get those items prepared and then distribute those. I wanted to throw in some community service ideas. Over the last few weeks, we've had some concerns from families that, our kids aren't able to get out and help the community. They're losing out on some community service time that maybe would help them with possible scholarship applications, or just they're losing out on that time when they'd like to help others. But with your club, here's another chance to create cards or posters, but instead of them taking them home, you could maybe have the kids create, maybe for Valentine's Day, create posters that say Happy Valentine's Day. You could take pictures of them with the sign, print the pictures and make a poster and take the poster to a local nursing home or police department, fire station. It could be thank you cards or posters. That'd be a way to give back to local, nursing homes or public service people and thank them for their service. You could also create videos for Facebook or YouTube, and feel free to reach out to your extension office. They would help you put these together, I'm sure, or give some guidance. But maybe your club, wants to tell more about their club, and they just create signs and you do still photos that you can put in a slideshow to show on your Facebook page. So there's other things you can do together as a group, or maybe even individually, but combine it together in a different way that you can show your support to the community. There's also always food drives for local food banks. Maybe this is a coordinated effort with the food bank where your members drop off their items on a specific day and time. That way you're not handling the food. If you're handling the food, though, you would want to make sure that you take safety precautions for that. Chelsea, you may be familiar with the Zenith Live Wires and Plowboy Club. They do this annually. They go to former club leaders' houses and they rake up their leaves and pick up sticks and help prepare their yards for mowing season. And I think it's one of the coolest things our clubs do, because they're really looking out for the past leaders and it really is a service to them. And they have a lot of fun, and you're outdoors. People can bring their own rakes and items. I think it would be easy to do to social distance. A lot of counties have a United Way Day of Caring event. That may be a chance for clubs to reach out and see what they can help do and provide a service and count that as a community service for their club. And then some counties also have local community gardens, and that would be a good chance where kids could take turns, going and weeding the garden or helping maintain it. And you wouldn't all have to be there, or if you were, you probably get spread out far enough that you wouldn't be within 6 feet. So those are some other ideas that you may just have to plan out, take more time to prepare and plan and implement, but they're doable. So Chelsea, do you have any questions for any of us?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Do you think you will host in-person meetings at some time?
I think we will. We're going to sit down and we're going to try to reach out and see, who would be still interested in, and even coming if we were to host them. Because, we've had a couple people ask us if we are going to have meetings, if we're going to be allowed to. And this was just the other day. So, yeah, we are going to try to have some.
Okay, well, that's good. And, you don't have to feel pressured to do it. We hope that you would like to, but, I know there are some clubs in my county, especially that the facility that they use, they won't let them use it at this point, and or the leader may have some underlying medical conditions that they don't feel comfortable hosting, and that's all very understandable. But if you are willing to host and you want to try it, I hope the tools we've given you today will be helpful. This last slide shows the other programs in the series. So this was at least a 3-program series so far. We may add more, but the next session will be February 16th, and it will cover Zoom and online recreation. So if you do host a Zoom meeting, that'll give you resources to help implement your meetings and make it more fun. And then March 16th is parliamentary procedure with the pros, and that would give some guidance on how to help your kids run their meetings with parliamentary procedure. Jill, do you want to add anything?
No, I would just go ahead and reiterate that if you have any questions or need some ideas, or want to test something out, maybe talk through an idea about a game or an activity or anything related to your club meetings, feel free to contact your educator. I know you're in Melissa's county, but to anybody out there, reach out to your educator and we'd be willing to talk through any part of it.